Sam McDaddy, 10 billion in real estate.
We want people coming investing in our country so that we can have more wealth.
What is the maximum amount of money you made in 1 year?
Oh,
Why government is giving builders so much power?
oh, it's been challenged. I don't know about crash, but challenged.
I want to listen your story, your success story.
It's in one of those great times to buy. Right?
How much money do you need to invest in Canada?
So hi everybody, welcome to the NestWise show. We have a very important guest with us, somebody who is very famous in real estate, somebody who is a self-made billionaire, Sam McDaddy with us. He has sold more than 60,000 houses all over GTA. Anybody in Canada who is doing real estate knows him. He's the godfather of real estate.
Thank you for the very warm introduction. I appreciate it.
Sam McDaddy, 10 billion in real estate. I mean, that is insane. Like
Insane number.
Insane. Like, where did it all start?
You know, it wasn't by design that I was going to become a realtor. So in my younger days, you know, I loved sports. We played a lot of sports. It's different today. A lot of people are on their computers, etc. But, you know, we played baseball, field hockey, basketball, and I fell in love with tennis. And so I was all in for tennis. And when I was age 15 to 18 or 19, I must have played more tennis than anybody in Ontario. I was committed to playing. We were indoors. My mom was a dedicated mom with my brother, who also was an avid tennis player. So I was I was fortunate enough to get a tennis scholarship in the States. And
In States?
In the States, yeah.
Wow.
So I spent 4.5 years there initially, and I completed my undergraduate Bachelor's of Science. But the tennis component was great for me because it allowed me to learn how to compete, thrive under pressure, all of the above. That was, work ethic. So that helped shape me for the future, which was a really important element. And, tennis is different because it's one-on-one, right? So you can't blame anybody but yourself if you lose.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, you play doubles sometimes, so it's 2-on-2. But, a lot of times with singles, you play team sport, you can maybe blame the goalie. He let the puck in or the da-da-da. So for us, you had to deal with pressure and thrive in that environment. So that really was an important stepping stone. And after I finished my undergrad, I went on and furthered my education, did an MBA at the University of South Carolina. And, at that time, my family didn't really have too much money that my dad did and then lost it. So, I did a 20-year graduate coordinator program, 20-hour a week. So I was studying, doing my MBA, plus working 20 hours a week to try and pay for my schooling. Wow. And so all that, when I finished, I was like, after that, everything was easy, right? So when I came back to the working world, I did 2 years of corporate finance, thinking with an MBA, that's what I should do. But, and I always tell people today, find your passion, right? And for me, even though I spent all these years, 4 years, trying to get an MBA and thinking the corporate path was my direction, I became disillusioned, realizing I'm not really happy. I'd get the Sunday night blues, and I wasn't fulfilled. So then I decided, let me try something different, and let's get my real estate license. Remember, this is 35 plus years ago. So, back then, a guy with an MBA looked like you're taking 5 steps back, getting a real estate license, right? But I said, I don't really care what people think. I want to do what makes me happy.
How old were you back then?
25.
Just 25.
Yeah, so I just finished all my education and spent a couple years in corporate and then shifted to real estate. But I didn't know anybody. All of the above. So, but I knew one thing: I was going to work hard, right? And I was going to give it my all. We talked about this before we went on air. But one of my driving factors was taking care of my family because my dad, who had lost everything, I wanted to make sure I could provide for them now. So they provided for me. I wanted to do the role reversal, right? So that was my big why. That was my big driver, right? So, but the first year or two, like any business, it was really tough and easy for me to have quit. There's many times, I was questioning the path, all of the above. But I thought there's one thing, I do like what I'm doing. I don't feel like I'm working. So I really would love to find a way to make this work because it doesn't feel like work, right? If it doesn't feel like work, I can do this forever, right? So, and eventually I started emulating some people and watching people who had success and, trying to do what they did. And it was interesting because back then people wouldn't really share. They wouldn't tell you what they did. And so when people ask me, I'll be an open book because even if somebody is another Sam McDaddy, there's enough room for 10 or 20. It's fine. There's all sorts of houses and real estate to sell, so you don't have to have a monopoly, right? And I think sharing is important because, that helps other people with their path as well. So
I mean, that's very nice of you because a lot of people, they be like, okay, if I share something, he will be better than me. But I want to know, how was your childhood like? Like, how was it and where did you grow up?
Yeah, so we spent most of my formative years here in Mississauga, and I have a twin sister, and a brother. And my brother and I were the ones who started playing a lot of tennis together. So we spent a lot of time on the tennis court. And so we had great childhood memories. I mean, we had a lot of dear friends, and like I said back then, we played a lot of sports, and I'm a big sports guy. I love all sports and stuff. So I mean, my recollection was great. Great parents who were very loving. My dad, was working a lot, so we didn't see him as much. But great memories for sure.
Oh, that is very nice. So,
yeah. So from growing up in Mississauga to becoming the biggest real estate brokerage and biggest real estate realtor in Canada, what was this always going into your mind that I want to be there, or there was something which changed it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So initially, I just wanted to be happy and make enough of a living that I can enjoy, stay in real estate because I enjoyed it, right? And then at some point, we started having some success, and I thought, we got to shoot high now. We got to go for the stars, right? So,
what was your first deal where you feel like now I want to do big, and where did you make your first money in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, it's so many years removed, but I remember back then. Remember, the house prices were much different, right? So we were selling places for like $80,000 back then, right? And I was a first-time buyer specialist, so I was And the good thing is, I provide really good service to all the clients. I worked above and beyond, and I still to this day, 35 years later, many of them are my clients and friends, etc. So, but at a certain point, when we started having success, I realized, hey, we're onto something pretty good. Then you always have to have this mentality, not cockiness, but belief that you can be better than anybody, right? If you're an athlete, if you're number one in the world, you believe you can be better than anybody, but in a nice way, not in a wrong way, right? So I looked around and I said, I can be better than everybody here, right? I had to have the belief, and then from there I said, let's go for it. Now we're ready. Now we've got some success. Let's go and shoot for the stars, right? And Rome wasn't built in a day, but I have a plan for the next 3 to 5 years of how we're going to grow this to become a really big entity.
Do you still keep like small milestones for you, or you used to keep?
No, still, yeah. So a few years ago, I had set a goal for 1 year that I wanted to sell 1,000 houses in 1 year.
1,000 houses in 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year you sold 1,000 houses.
Yeah, with my team, right? Not just
okay,
the solo.
But still?
Yeah, so we did. So, and I remember 1 year in 2020, I was at like 998. I said, I better buy 2 just to get to 1,000. So just because, and then, we wanted to hit $1 billion in sale 1 year. And that year we were just a little bit light. So same thing. I think I bought 2 houses just to make that goal. But then 2021, we helped 1,440 families in 1 year, and we did 1.4 billion in sales in 1 year, right? So, and that's probably the record for any.
1,400 houses.
Yeah. So it's like, so you imagine how you start for 35 years. I could have never thought those numbers. I could have even visualized those numbers, right? But as you have momentum, you reset your goals and say, I can do it, right? Now, if I said year 1, I'm going to do $1 billion in sales, well, that'd be unrealistic, right? But as you start growing the business and you see the potential and you're ready to do what it takes to get there, then, you can achieve.
You have so many families in GTA in buying their houses, selling their houses, giving them their dream house. How does it feel?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's really rewarding, right? And there's nothing better when a client, just expresses, his gratitude, and and this market's a little difficult because things aren't as fluid. But we were talking off air as well. But this is the market where you have to be a little more innovative, creative, and find solutions and problem solve, which I think is important too because it challenges you, which I think sometimes you have to go through that too.
So Sam, someone who has no experience in real estate, right? Lot of our viewers who are watching this video right now, they don't know anything about real estate market in Canada, right? So someone who wants to jump in real estate, what should they keep in mind, and how much money should they have in their hand?
Yeah, the rule of thumb back in the day was have at least 6 months of savings, right? So because you may not do a deal the first month or 2 or 3, it's a learning curve. And I always tell people, get into real estate for the right reason. And that shouldn't be because you want to make money. It should be because you love people, you love houses. The byproduct will be you'll do well financially, right? So you always have to put your clients, needs ahead of yours, right? And sometimes it's not easy, if you've got bills and obligations, your mind's thinking, I need this deal to do this or that. But really, if you do the right thing, you'll have longevity. And some realtors are shooting stars. They have one good year, but they do it unethically. They don't do it the right way. And then they're driven out of town, right? And I think what we're most proud about is we got to the top, but in the GTA, and in 15 years we stayed there, right? Nobody's taking. So that means we're doing the right things day in, day out. Because and of course, with that comes people who want to take shots, and that's normal, right? If you're relevant, they're taking shots. That means you've got to them, right? So, and I always say, I don't worry how other people view us, as long as we do things the proper way. We do it with honesty and integrity. You don't want to worry about how people judge you, right? Because sometimes people can say good, bad. If you go online, you check what people say about you. Sometimes it's very negative. Sometimes, so if you let those people affect you, it's affecting your life. It shouldn't. You should be happy with yourself. I've got a good friend, you may know him, George St. Pierre, who's a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend, and I never forgot what he told me one day. He comes to, we spend a lot of time together. He comes to the house, and we play sports, and we actually cold plunge and sauna together and play. And he said, I had him talk to a group of my realtors and friends, and he said, listen, I care about my family and close friends. That's what matters most. If I do the right thing, just like we talked about, then how other people want to see me, that's how they're going to see me. But I'm not going to let that influence my happiness in my life, right? So, and then I'll just bring one extra example, which I think is really relevant. So many people worry so much about, hey, I have to impress the Jones. I have to do all the right things so people look at me a certain way, and they live their life worried about others, right? And I think family and friends are what matters. But what really kind of highlighted it for me was I was with the super fan, my dear friend Nav Bhatia, and Rinku, another really good friend, who's his social media person in marketing, and we went to Hazel McCallion's funeral, who probably, to me, I would argue is the most iconic figure in Mississauga ever, right? She died just shy of 102, 1 month shy of 102 years of age. My mom met her, and she was like, she's a role model for my mom, and I had her meet her when my mom turned 85. And at her funeral, it was a state funeral, so I'm expecting standing room only, right? Because she's like this huge, bigger than life figure. In there, it was half empty. So I came home and I started thinking, I said, we give so much weight to our lives and what people think about us. When we go, it's people 1 or 2 days, unless it's family who you have a heart attachment. They go on and live their life. So we have to remember in our life, do the right thing, but don't be attached to how people view you. It doesn't matter.
That's true. But like talking about ethics, you were talking like you only do ethical things. So what is the most ethical values which Sam McDaddy brings to his team and his team members follows? And maybe when you hire people into your team, what are the ethical values you screen before they join your team?
Well, it's really clear for us. We tell them that you have to work with honesty and integrity. If we have clients who are complaining about you because you're doing things that are, not principled, then there's no room for you, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. We had a couple that worked with us. They were high-performing agents, but I started getting complaints. And I said, I worked way too hard to build our brand, right? And if I can't be eyes and ears to every agent who's working on my team. I have to know they're doing the right thing. And if I feel that's not the case, you make an honest human mistake, no problem. We correct that. We make sure you don't replicate it because, it's obviously a learning curve and all that. But if you're just not ethical, that's a different discussion. So these people, I had 2 or 3 complaints one day after already giving them a warning. So I had them come in. And I said, how are you guys doing with it? Oh, we're doing great. We're making a lot of money. I said, but today's your last day. It didn't matter how much money they're making because it's affecting our brand, right? It's affecting our values, right? So, and I can't have that, right? So I said, we had 3 complaints in one day. How many are not complaining to me? So if just 3 in one day, that means all the hard work we've done to build this brand, and make sure it's built with principle is being diminished. So, I'll give you, a few weeks to find a new home, but that's it for us. So it didn't matter. I mean, of course, I love people bringing revenue, but the right way.
So I think that any mistake meant by any realtor brings a bad image to brand Sam McDaddy at the same time.
Of course. Yeah. It's everything for us. Like we said, money can come and go, but you are as a core person, that's who you are.
I think that's why a lot of people trust in you, and when they start losing trust, it gets bad. So that's why you try to keep your realtors good.
And sometimes it's okay to tell somebody, hey, it's not the right time for you to buy. It's not about you. It's about doing the right. They have a family. They have a life. You can't be selfish in that behavior, right? Because then it's affecting other people's livelihood. You should not do that.
I personally know a realtor. So there was a family who wanted to buy a house, but they could only afford $3,000 a month. But when this realtor went there, they gave him so many dreams and those stuff, and their monthly EMI for the house was $6,000, and he sold them, so getting them second mortgage and all those stuff, right?
Yeah, then they're choked.
Yeah,
it's not fair.
And then eventually, I think in this industry, most of the time you get business is from word of mouth.
Of course, the referral. So I remember once I had 30 years ago. we used to run a lot of ads, and I would be showing houses for, like I was saying, first time buyers. And I showed this one person a property. And I said, I don't really like the location because here's why, but let me show you something else, right? It's not much difference in terms of price, maybe, back then 10, 20,000, which would have been today like 100,000 difference because the prices are different. But I said, but I think you're going to have better appreciation. So anyway, we showed, he bought it. And since then, maybe with just that one family, 40 referrals, right? 40 people. So it shows if you do the right thing, that the referral business just evolves and grows exponentially. If you do the wrong thing, not only do they not refer, but they talk ill of you as well. So it's actually now even worse. But you shouldn't do it for that reason. You should do it because that's the right thing to do. But the byproduct of that is, the referral business grows exponentially.
Sam, you worked from, you started 35 years before. So when you were initially doing real estate, you were dealing with common people. And now you're official broker with Toronto Raptors. Now you're dealing with top 0.01% of Canadian rich people, wealthy people who buys like $50 million, $60 million houses. What's the difference?
Yeah, so, interestingly, when I was the first-time buyer specialist for many years, then eventually those buyers became sellers, and they were growing in their careers, and we were following them and moving up and up. And then probably about 15, 20 years ago, I said, we've really cornered that market, but I now want the luxury market as well. And I want to be able to say no house is too big or too small, which is kind of our slogan. So, people say, there's too many players in that space. It's crowded. You're not going to be able to penetrate that. I said, but as soon as somebody tells me that, then you're like, okay, now you're challenging me. So it's that competitive nature, right? So then, and it was really, so I was sending flyers to 22,500 houses every week. And, we got a listing. I took it at a bit of a loss leader just to get my name out there. We did all the right things. We were staging. Nobody was staging 20 years ago. We sold it. And within 6 months, we became like the number one in the luxury market in Mississauga, right? Which really people thought, first of all, we could never even get there, but let alone in 6 months. So it shows us what your mind can conceive, right? So then, fortunately, we started building some really good relationships. I deal with, 90% of the Raptors are my friends and athletes. We, they come to the house, we hang out, baseball players too and stuff. So it's been a really blessed journey, but it came with a lot of hard work and sacrifice. So, and I never take that for granted, right? So, and the values we've instilled from day one have to be that plus some, because a lot of eyes are on us now. So competitors are looking, trying to, maybe bring down a peg or two. So if you do everything the right way, they can say what they want, but you're doing it, with integrity.
So Sam, what do you think, now I want to talk more about Canadian real estate market,
Sure.
Right? Do you think Canadian real estate market has been crashed right now?
Oh, it's been challenged. I don't know about crash, but challenged because of so many moving parts. So you have to think, so 24 was a bit of a challenging year in the real estate sector, predominantly because rates had gone up, right? So we were sitting at sub 2% for 5-year money, and it went to over 6%. So, and 2/3 of the people who had mortgages had variable rate mortgages. So they didn't have really a quick enough time to pivot, right? So all of a sudden their payments went ballooned, and, so people were very, very cash flow compromised, right? So, and then at the end of this year, rates had started adjusting. So we're sitting at 4%. And I told my team, I said, 4 is probably the new norm, right? Don't expect 2 anymore, but 4 is a reasonable number, right? I mean, I think we got spoiled for too long at this sub 2% fixed
But how
money.
about the pricing of the houses?
Yeah, so we'll get, so what happened was, I would say, but you got to remember though, we lost some points, but from 21, they went up so much so if you bought in 21, you're down today, right? Because 21, the price, some people, and I used to tell people, just exercise some caution. If there's 30, 40 offers on a house, don't get crazy. There's everything's cyclical, right? But back then, buyers were afraid, I better buy today. If I don't buy today, next month I have to pay another $50,000, and this panic kicked in, right? So people were overpaying, sometimes grossly overpaying, right? And not us, because we tell our buyers, stop, put a ceiling, don't go above that. We don't want you, and we didn't really enjoy that market because it was too brisk. And when prices go up 30% or 40% in a year, that's not healthy too. It's not sustainable, right? So then eventually, rates go up. And the reason they increased the rates was to cool off the market, right? Because the market was one of the reasons, of course, inflation and all that. So, and then, so prices from 21 for sure dipped. And I would say maybe depending what sector. So if you're in the condo world, that got beat up because a lot of people are buying pre-construction. And you got to think Pre-construction, I'm just going to zigzag a little bit with my thoughts, but pre-construction, if you bought something in 2019, 2020, and it closed in 22, everybody's making $200,000-300,000 every property they buy, close. So people said, let me double down, let me buy 10, let me buy 20, and so now all of a sudden they're buying too many. They're not thinking about. And I always tell my clients when they're buying investment, think about what's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Worst case, you have to close it. Maybe it's empty for 6 months. If you can't answer yes, I can do all of the above, and it's still going to be okay for me financially. Don't do it, right? If you're only thinking about the upside, of course the upside is going to be great, but the downside you have to also reflect on, right? And really build that into the equation, right? So then 25, we were pretty ready to have, I think, a much better year. And I told my team, I think we're positioned to do pretty good. And first week in January, it was just too early because it was just after the holidays. Second and third week was very good, right? It felt like the good old days. And then fourth week, it slowed again. Why? Because of the tariffs, right? So people were nervous about the tariffs. February 1st was the announcement date. He deferred it to March, to April. So really our typical spring market didn't materialize because of the Trump factor, right? And so Trump basically caused people, because you have to think all these manufacturing jobs were at risk, the cost was going to go exponentially higher. So with fear, there's almost paralysis. People don't take action, right? They just wait, right? So I think that, and there are a lot of motivated sellers. And I think if you're a buyer today, you should consider buying next 3 to 6 months, right? I don't think the market's going to rebound in 1 or 2 months. You have a window, but I think so. It's ironic to me when you had 40 offers in a property and everybody was ready to jump and pay stupid money. Maybe one of those buyers didn't secure property. Now they can buy that property for 25% cheaper, 30% cheaper, and they don't want to buy it. Like, yeah, but you lost on the offer that you would have bought it. So, and are you going to wait for the price to start going? So people, they're almost, when it's it's like most people don't make money because they're afraid to go against the grain, right? They don't want to go against the crowd. But if you have the courage to go against the crowd, you'll make money, right?
So is it going to go down more? Let's say I'm buying my first house in Canada right now. Prices are going to go down more?
It's hard to say. I mean, listen, is there another 5 or 10% downward? Maybe. It's possible. So to predict is very hard because there's so many moving parts, right? Did we think in December that tariffs was really going to be a concern? Probably not, right? Did we think that there's going to be potentially a World War III erupting? Probably not, right? Although we had suspicion because there's a lot of stuff's going on. So many variables can come into play that you're not even forecasting that could affect or alter the course, right? So, but can they go down a little bit? A little bit. For sure. But in my opinion, and for me, I tell people today, listen, you can't pick tops or bottoms, just like the stock market, but you're pretty close to the bottom, if not at the bottom. There may be a little wiggle, maybe, and because there's so many motivated sellers right now. So it's not even like you have to find sellers that are, motivated. And there's a lot of them that have to sell, need to sell. And so then you can transact at a very good price.
And what do you think about like the condo market? Is it going to go up?
To me, for the condo world, it's in one of those great times to buy, right?
Because one of those great times to buy?
Yeah, for sure, because when nobody wants it, right? So that you can buy such cheap compared to what, so for giving an example, Brightwater, which is a poor credit condo, we have a person, I put an offer for a client and the place was listed $730,000, right? We could probably pick it up for $700,000. The agent didn't know how to navigate HST, so I think they'll fall through. But they paid $1,035,000, so they're losing 30%. So the benefactor is the buyer, right? So what happened with pre-con, builders have to sell 2/3 before they get construction financing, verifiable. They have to show that it's not just a mortgage letter, or they have to get a top tier bank saying you're qualified, because then they get construction financing, they build. Now, fast forward 3-4 years later, these high rises are being built, developed, they're ready to close. 1/3 of the people don't close because they can't close. So the builder takes back 1/3 of the units. So imagine there's a 300 unit property, 100 come back.
As you said, like you can save up to 25 to 30% of any condo you're buying it right now in the property. Why do you think there are a lot of condominiums in the market right now? I was reading there are almost 400,000 in only GTA condominiums or apartments for sale, but still people are not buying it.
Yeah, sure, because they think this is going to keep going down. And so once again, it's the same mentality. Like, hey, if the condo market was hot, they'd be buying all day long. When they can get it for a discount, they can. And some, even developers, builders, a lot of them are struggling financially because they didn't project they'd have to take back 1/3 of the properties, right? And the reason there's so much surplus is for that reason, right? Builders sold, a lot of people can't close, and so they have inventory, excess inventory. We just sold a property to a dear friend. The buyers had paid, the previous buyers who didn't close on it paid $750. We picked up for $600. So $150 savings, easy to rent, lake views, all the above. So do I think the condo market's in trouble? Yes. But do I think that there's opportunities because of that? Yes.
So suppose I have say 100,000 or 200,000 to invest money right now. and I want to make money as a passive income with real estate. What is the best method in real estate which I can choose, whether it's buying a piece of land, condominium, detached house, industrial, commercial? What would you suggest?
Yeah, it's case by case, right? So there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, if you're looking for cash flow, land wouldn't be the best option because you're gonna have to land bank and hold it, and by the way, land is a great purchase if you have time on your hands, right? Because you can buy lands that are zoned agricultural, and then 10, 20 years they get redefined in the official plan, and then now they're residential. That property that you bought for millions is worth 50 million, right? So if it works out well, that's why people had places in Milton, North Brampton, all that got redeveloped, and so. But you had Ken F's, who are dear friends of mine as well. They're big builders, developers, great people. I mean, they own a ton of real estate, but they bought 40 years ago. So they're sitting pretty, they're sitting good. And whenever the time is right, they'll develop, right? Buying land today, if it's already zoned residential, it's expensive, right? But if you buy something that's, you project maybe it's going to get zoned in the future, because of the new, there's housing shortages, you can hit home runs, right?
More of a long-term vision.
Long-term, yeah. So land's more long-term, but it's not cash flowing for you, just banking on future projections of, capital appreciation, significant capital appreciation if everything gets zoned as somebody might project to do so. I think, to me, I always say I would look at any deal. I just want to see if that specific deal is a good opportunity. So one lady called me a couple months ago. Oh, I'm thinking of selling my place. I don't want to go on the market. She told me what she wanted for her place. I said, I'll buy it. Because it didn't matter about the asset class. I just thought the price was reflective of a really good deal, right? That I could make 20, 30%, right? So I said, listen, no fuss, no muss. I can just, take it. And she just decided then not to, but that's okay. But the reason I was saying about that story is that at the end, it wasn't so much the asset class, it was the value of that asset class that mattered to me.
So if, let's say now, Sam, let's say someone wants very young or very new to this country and he wants to buy their first home or start investing in real estate. How much money do you need to invest in Canada?
The rules changed a little bit. So the first $500,000, 5%. So it's $25,000 for $500,000. From $500,000 used to be up to $1 million. The differential was 10%. So if you bought a place for, let's say, $999 or $1 million, you'd put down 5% on the first 500, which is 25,000. On the 500 to $1 million, another 50, 75, right? But now even $1 million doesn't get you so much. So they've revamped the rules now to go up to 1.5 million. So you can buy a place, let's say 1.2 million. The first 5%, 500 is 5%, 25,000. Next 700,000 is at 10%, so it's 95,000, right? So if you buy a place, let's say for 700, you'd need minimum down payment 45,000 plus land transfer, closing costs, legal fees, all of the above.
This is with CMJC, right?
CMHC.
CMHC.
So, exactly.
And very few people qualify for CMHC, right?
No. Well, the problem fundamentally is there's what they call the stress test, right? So when the rates were very low, the lender said, hey, although you can get 2% or 1.75, whatever that rate looked like, we're going to qualify you plus 2% at 3.75 versus 1.75 because when you come up for renewal in 5 years, chances are rates will be higher, right? So this is not a normal rate. Although it stayed there for a long time. So people were qualifying at 3.75, no problem. Now when rates went up, so now you're getting a mortgage for 4 or 5%, you qualify plus 2%. So you're qualifying 6 or 7%. So that makes it more difficult because the amount of income you need to buy, the income requirement for a 500,000 mortgage is about 120,000. The average Canadian income is 90,000 or 80,000, whatever, 100,000. So the problem is there's a disconnect. So income and real estate prices, there's a big divergence, right? And I think that's made it challenging, right?
Do you think the government has a big role in Canadian real estate market and it is directly affecting the consumers?
Yeah, for sure. I think they've made some poor choices, in my opinion. I think that at the end, the stress test made sense maybe when rates were quite low, sub 2%. Now when they're sitting at where they probably will be and should be, I think you should eliminate the 2% qualification because otherwise the income requirements are very stringent and I've talked about this, stretch the amortization back to 30 or 35 so the monthly payments can make sense for the clients. Because right now, the biggest challenge is cash flow for people. It's very difficult. So most people are, having trouble making ends meet, and that's definitely government induced. There's no question about it. I mean, they're the ones who played with the rates, brought them up, down, and then even with non-residents, they've put a ban for non-residents to buy real estate. It was 2 years. They added another 2 years. So we're sitting, for another 2 years without people being able to buy property that are non-residents. And really, this country was built on that, like people coming into the country, either investing or working hard. And I think there's been a paradigm shift in the mentality of the Canadians, especially the new immigrants, because we all came here with the land of opportunity and we could make something for ourselves. And now I think today they're coming, how can we, maybe collect a check from our wonderful socialist government. And so I think the mindset's different today, right?
So what I'm trying to understand right now is anybody who was non-resident before could buy properties in Canada, which was adding a lot into Canadian economy, and that's what not been happening right now. So how much that portion of real estate, or how much that portion of economical value was there, which is missing right now?
So the changes were this. In 2017, they brought out and they said, hey, we're a non-resident, because they felt the mainland Chinese market was effectively influencing our Canadian pricing, right? Which was a bit of a fallacy. I mean, maybe 5% at the height of the market were non-residents, right? But I mean, they're bringing good money in here. Their investing is good for the economy. Good to me. That there's nothing wrong with that, right? So then they brought out in 17, and that cooled the market, by the way. For about 6 months, the market changed because people felt, oh my God, if the non-residents can't, they have to pay a surcharge. And what they did then, all the non-residents, instead of buying in the GTA, they went to Montreal. They went to, okay, you don't want us here? No problem. We'll put our money somewhere else, right? So this was a GTA ban, right? So it wasn't a national ban. But then, I guess they went to 25%. They said, listen, there'll be a 25% non-resident tax. Then they went one step further and said, hey, no, we're just not going to let you buy real estate. So forget about the 25%. You can't buy real estate. So that's had an impact because many people, okay, so when I deal with the Raptors, I tell them oftentimes, guys, listen, at the end of the day, now the exceptions, if you work here, let's say they're Americans, they work here, then they can still buy real estate, but they'd have to pay 25%. So I tell them oftentimes it may not make sense for you guys, because what if you get traded 2 years from now? You got to pay 25% surcharge. You buy a place for $5 million. You pay 1.25 million surcharge. Then you got to pay land transfer, legals. Then you got to sell. You got to pay real estate. So all of a sudden it prices them out of maybe now they make enough money they may not care. But at the end it's not ideal for confidence. Even I remember when I was talking to the coach. He goes, oh, this is a big deterrent for the players. Like I didn't know they had these kind of rules, right? Because it's an extra layer which we don't really think we need here, and really. We want people coming investing in our country so that we can have more wealth, not less wealth, right? And I think they've really taken the wrong stances, in my opinion. And I think you want to incentivize by try and reduce taxes. There's so many things I think that could be done differently and more efficiently. But I'm not at the helm, so I can't make those decisions.
And is this 25% non-resident tax for both residential and commercial both?
Yeah, it's more residential. That's a great question. And there's some areas where if they're, let's say, a certain northern city or community, maybe it's exempt, right? A few little exemptions and stuff, right? But remember, most people come here non-residents. First thing you want to do is buy real estate before. Typically, sometimes they'll buy businesses or whatever, but more often than not, real estate gets settled, get the family settled. Sometimes the husband goes back and forth from their country because they've got business dealings there as well too.
So do you think that if government removes these taxes right now, it would certainly bring Canadian economy to a better level?
Yeah, but there's a lot of damage. It's going to take time now. It's not overnight, right? So I think, this has been years now, right? So remember, if they first brought it out in 2017, so it's 8 years later, and then they've increased it, then put a ban on. So yeah, it's a step in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction, but it's not going to be like, oh my God, the market's now. What I think needs to happen is they have to understand the issues on the ground with a lot of the buyers who don't qualify for mortgages. Things aren't making sense for them. So it's almost now they're going to become just tenants, right? And that's not ideal. I mean, really, it was always the Canadian or North American dream to own real estate, but now it's almost getting out of touch for a lot of people, right? So especially in the big cities like Toronto.
No, I used to work at Tim Hortons when I came to Canada.
Where?
I used to work at Tim Hortons in Canada when I started here. So I recently met one of my fellow employee who was working with me, and he's been working at Tim Hortons for good 20 years now. And we were talking, so he still rents a house. I told him it's been 20 years, why don't you buy a house? So he was telling me that I saved my money to buy a house and everything crashed up. So he bought one of the pre-construction project. And he lost his entire life saving into it. And now he's very sad, So people like them, they have to suffer because of certain decisions made at a higher level. It destroys Commonwealth's entire life. and that's not good, right?
No. Well, right now people are getting beat up. There's no question about it, right? And I'll tell you. So let's say he bought a condo, and the way it works with pre-construction, you're paying deposits. It's typically 5 and 5%. So you get to 15 on occupancy. You give another 5 for 20, right? So people buy. Let's say you buy a place for $600,000-700,000. You've given now 15%, called $100,000, right? That's your life savings, right? Now the values went down 150, so you're negative, right? So and you're only concerned with now. Okay, I know I can't close it because the bank won't qualify me. But I don't want to get sued, right? So okay, I'll lose all my money. Just don't sue me. And yet the builder, what they'll do though, they will sue. So they'll look, do they have an asset? Can I collateralize something again? So if I sell this, there's a loss, I'm going after them. So this is the concern. So a lot of the people we know that bought pre-con, they just want out, I'll lose my deposit. I just want my name off. I don't want to get sued. So this is the mentality, right?
Well, why government is giving builders so much power?
Well, it's not even the builder. It's not even the builder. The government's giving the builders power. It's just the builders are making that decision. Hey, I mean, if you're not, you didn't fulfill, and it's not the builder's fault. You didn't fulfill your contractual obligation. We sold to you at X. You didn't close it. That's why I said you also have to go back and say, what's the worst case scenario when you're buying something? Wow, the market crashes. Can I still move forward? Can I still close it? Yes, good. Then do it. No, I can't. Then don't buy it. Right. So I think a lot of people weren't really asking those questions. They're just looking at with rose-colored glasses. Everything was perfect. And when the market was perfect, no problem.
Yeah,
as soon as it turned.
Now
and
it's turned.
The other problem is people were buying and doing really well, and so they just thought this was a repeatable formula. But everything in life changes. Nothing stays the same, right? So, and then they didn't decide to buy 1 or 2 and be concerned. Oh, I'm going to double down. I'm going to buy 30. This is my retirement now. I'm going to make 200 off 30. That's $6 million. I'm good. That kind of. But that's dangerous thinking because the market can turn.
For somebody who's working at a minimum wage job, they wanted to buy a house, their dream home, they saved their money entire life. And now they're not able to close because the bank appraisal is not up to the mark. Yeah. And they're short of 50,000-60,000, which they cannot make because that was they saved all their life.
Like 50,000-60,000 is like their years.
Years and years saving, right? Yeah. And now they have no choice. Yeah. Either they close, take a second mortgage, or buy from their friends or whatever. Otherwise, they are losing their money first. And second, they're getting sued by the builder. Right. And this brings a lot of chaos in the market. Yeah, and sure. Like we feel sad because a lot of people will come on road, they save their entire life, saving is gone. So do you think that government should bring some rules for these guys as well? Because we are thinking as per the as for the developers right now, which is okay because they have contracts with them right now. But what about these people who lost everything?
Yeah, listen, I do think there should be some concessions where, for example, at the very least, the government says you can't go after them. That's something, because I think there's a lot of stress with these buyers because of all the reasons you mentioned, right? So and with stress leads to a lot of bad things, right? So and I mean, if you've got a family you're expected to move in or close or rent, and all of a sudden everything changes because of things that you couldn't foreshadow, but it still goes back to the age-old thing. You made that decision, right? So so you still, but I think that one of the reasons things turned was because the government intervention, right? And I think that's what.
This is a very common question which everybody thinks sometimes. Like if somebody is not able to close their house, and the developer still has that house, right? They can sell it to somebody else who can buy it. If they were about to sell that to somebody else, will this person still get sued?
No, well, it depends what they sell it for, and if there's any, like, they'll have to show there's losses, material losses. No, I mean, so let's say they already gave a deposit of 100 and they sell it for 100 less, they should be okay because it's covered everything, right? So, but if they sell it for 200 less, you gave 100, yeah, they can still sue you, right? So it depends, and sometimes they're not as worried what they sell it for. I mean, because if they know there's somebody behind with assets, then they'll go after them for sure. But if, let's say, somebody came from China, they were going to come here, relocate their family, they put a deposit, and then they said, I'm out of here, I'm going back home, I don't even like it here. Yeah, then they just let it go, because they know that you're not going to do much to those people.
What if, okay, Sam, what if someone have like $50,000 saved up? What would they do in real estate, like in today?
Yeah, you can buy a place of about 700,000. So look at 700 and see what that gets you. And then, so really the question.
Where's the best place to buy?
So I think, there's two trains of thought. Let's say somebody had a budget of 700, right? Yeah. Locally it's hard to buy something very at 700,000 you're kind of just at the tipping point, right? So, but if you could get in the game here, then you'll know there'll be probably good capital appreciation because it's the GTA vibrant and all the above. If you went on the outskirts, you'll probably get a better property, not as liquid, maybe won't appreciate as much. So, but sometimes people say, I don't care, I just want this.
Is GTA market already too saturated?
It's pretty saturated for sure. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think that's why, I mean, people started going outward, right? So they started going to Hamilton and Niagara on the Lake and Niagara and KW, Kitchener-Waterloo, because the GTA proper just got too expensive and too saturated.
And I think like if I was about to buy a detached house, I can't even afford in GTA. Like if somebody has to buy a house, what they are buying a condo for in GTA, they can buy a good detached house, maybe in Waterdown, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, Hamilton, or maybe in Milton too, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. Yeah, because we have a client, a good friend, we're showing her tomorrow, and she wants to attach in the million one. Milton has some options, right? But yeah, it's Mississauga wouldn't be so easy to get something nice, right? So yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah.
Do you often get these type of people who really want to get house in GTA or maybe Toronto, but they don't have budget for it, but they still want to do it, going out of their pocket? And what is the reason? Why do people like so much Toronto? Why they are in love with Toronto so much?
Well, I think it's just more easy accessibility, etc. Right? It's nothing like, I mean, if you listen, you want good restaurants, you want to be close to, the stadiums, arenas, shops, downtown's good, right? But yeah, it's a different one for sure. But I think there's still a lot of people who are okay being on the outskirts too, right?
Is Sam McDaddy a city guy or a countryside guy?
Well, I live in Mississauga, South Mississauga, near the lake and stuff. So I probably, I don't like the hustle bustle too much. So I mean, I like the city, but the traffic has gotten pretty bad these days. So I'm happy to be in suburbia.
What's the most expensive house you have sold?
Yeah, I mean, the prices here aren't like LA or California and stuff, or let's say Miami, where they got some. So we sold one in Mississauga, which is the record in the MLS, and it was just like under 20 million, right? So under 20, yeah. So we're actually doing a deal right now. We're trying. It's in the due diligence phase. For a hotel for 220 million, right? So
220 million hotel.
So that's commercial space and stuff. So.
What is the maximum amount of money you made in 1 year in real estate?
Oh, 8 figures.
8 figures.
8 figures?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So starting from 3 figures to 8 figures.
Yeah.
Must be like very hard working, incredible journey, right? So from this 3 figures to 8 figures, when you were going through this journey, and now you're at 8 figures, right? How do you feel now?
You're happy for what you accomplished, then you don't think too much about it, you keep going. That's all. Yeah.
But you are one of the most successful people in this country, right? And you have worked with so many successful people. Let's say someone who is like 20 years old right now in this country and wants to achieve that materialistic success. Like, what would you suggest them?
I think anybody can. I believe you have to. The problem today is people want instant gratification. They want it yesterday, right? I'm like we said, you have to map out a plan. It takes years to execute and grow and nurture, and stay true to that plan, right? So, and the problem also is people don't have the same work ethic, right? So people want to get there, but I can tell you the sacrifices I made along the way, people won't make today, right? So
what kind of sacrifices you made?
I was all in. Like, all my life was just this. Like, it was living, breathing. I didn't take a vacation for 10 years. My fiance at the time, I felt bad for her because I was just dialed in for work. I had my goals, my missions, and so and I don't think people are ready to do that so much today. So when we bring on and mentor younger generation, I mean, I think they all want to get there, but they don't have that drive and work ethic. And I think that's the missing link. Of course, you have to find your niche and what's going to work well for you and where, because even in real estate, you can do A, B, C, D, F, but you have to find what you like within that industry that's going to resonate with you, right? But more important, I remember I was talking to a group of 8,000 realtors in Austin, Texas, which was, and I'm pretty comfortable now with public speaking, but, 8,000 got to me. I walked in, it looked like this big football stadium. I'm like, oh boy, this will be but I remember the night before I went to bed early, I want to make sure I'm ready. I've got my A game. Then everybody else was getting drunk. And I said, they'll never compete with me, these guys. I'm way too disciplined for these guys. My discipline level will not be matched, right? So I know that in my mind. I'm ready, whether I'm less, more, equal, smarts, whatever. My work ethic and drive and discipline is unmatched. That's
so what one advice would you like to give somebody who just started their real estate career and they want to do very big in their life? One advice.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say one, but I'll say a few. So I think that know that there's going to be some, initial years there'll be adversity, right? But if you really believe this, where you want to be like I did, overcome that. Don't let anybody talk negatively about the industry and that you can't succeed. You have to have belief in yourself, right? Number one. Number two, it really has to resonate with you. Don't do it because, like I said, you think you can make money. Do it because you love what this industry represents and that you really enjoy dealing with people and looking at houses and helping them with their dreams, and things will slowly unfold, right? And three, if I'm a realtor, and I tell this to my team all the time, the problem is, as a realtor, if you get somebody calling you, you're looking for the red hot lead. Oh, they have to buy yesterday. But a lot of those, it's kind of on the continuum. Maybe they're cool, they're lukewarm, but you can warm them up. But you have to have a really good follow-up system that you keep in touch with everybody. So that for us is vital. So I'm talking to past clients of mine. So I went, and we'll talk about delegation because it took me a while to learn to delegate. And once I did that, it really freed me up to do the things I want to do so I can enjoy life too. If you have a good team, then you can delegate and know that it's going to get done just as well, right? So, but I think that, for me, what I always tell people as well, I know as you said one, so I'm going to ramble a little bit, but when I started delegating, and at the beginning, I was doing everything. I was writing the ads for I was actually writing articles. I was pre-qualifying, sending it qualified with the ratios to the bank. Like I was doing everything, every single aspect of the business I was touching, right? And to the point where I was like, I'm going to burn out. This is getting tough, right? Because, I like sales and marketing, but I'm doing everything now, right? But it was good that I did that because I wanted to touch it, so I understood it. And then I hired my first admin, and then I'm like, why didn't I hire somebody earlier? To the point where now I've got 5 administrators, right? So everyone's got different roles, different tasks. So what that allows me to do is free myself up, right? And the rule of thumb I tell people is figure out your hourly worth. So if I'm worth $50, $100, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 an hour, if the task I'm doing is less than that, I should not do it because my value is more than
value for time, right?
So that's the key piece for me, right? So, and a lot of times people say, I was really busy. What'd you do today? Oh, I went up and put 5 for sale signs up. Yeah, but that's not busy. That's busy, but not a productive busy. You should be talking to clients. You should be in front of people. You should be, marketing. You should be building your brand and all that, right?
So as we see, like Canada is a land of diversity, a lot of culture, a lot of people from different communities, culture, countries, languages. So generally we see that most of the realtors are comfortable just working with their community. They don't want to get into different communities and explore them or go there because most of them think that maybe there is a language barrier, maybe you cannot talk to them, maybe you can't understand them, or maybe you can't fulfill their needs, whatever. What's your say on that? Were you targeting entire Canada or you were targeting a particular community when you started your journey?
I'm licensed to sell in Ontario, so it's more Ontario GTA driven. But no, it didn't matter where they came from. That was of no consequence to me. But having said that, that's a good point. We build a team with the message or lingo that we speak your language, right? So we have team members that speak, all our team members, within our team, we have team members that speak 20, 25 languages, right? So somebody calls me and they speak, Russian, German, Italian, Punjabi, and maybe I can't effectively communicate with them, then I'll give it to our team member who can, right? So because sometimes there is that comfort level as well. But many times they're okay. Like if they're, if they speak English, relatively well, they're happy to, like it's not a barrier, right? But there are times where they are more comfortable.
So, Sam, let's say a lot of people wants to, like people now are very entrepreneurial mind, like they don't want to do job anymore, they wants to do business, right? And everyone is looking to start their own businesses, right? So what kind of businesses people can do in
what
like, what are the different kind of businesses people do in real estate, for example?
Yeah. I mean, listen. So, okay, you can talk about real estate sales. So you can be an agent. You can be a developer. You can be, So I think you can be a lender in real estate. So I think to me, and it's funny you say that because I tell people, I stay in my lane. So I do all things real estate, right? So I don't like to do things that I don't have knowledge. I don't profess to have knowledge. So I can buy real estate. I can sell it. I can trade for myself. I can lend money. That's not because I know the loan to value ratios. So I think anything real estate related, which would really be either you're in the sales field or you'd like to be a developer or a builder or land assembler, and then you sell accordingly, or you can eventually get into the mortgage space and be a private lender, so anything of all those lines I think are and so sometimes people will say, okay, I don't want to be a realtor, but I want to stay in real estate. Okay, maybe they want to do mortgages, right? And then maybe that's something that's kind of resonates with them. For me, real estate was always, like when I got into, like I said, it felt from day one that this is great. This is something I'm really having fun with, and I really enjoy it. And I want to be a student of real estate and student of knowledge for anything for that matter, right? So.
So most of the time we see that Sam McDaddy sits with, or you have friends with a lot of big guys into the industry. Maybe they come from fashion industry, real estate, actresses,
Biggest
Toronto
sports.
Raptors, everybody. So when you sit with these people, how do you feel? Like, is there a difference in their mindset, or when you sit with great Toronto Raptor players, their mindsets are very strong, and does that circle brings a lot of positive energy to you?
No, I think I'm ready that way. So I think I love their camaraderie and I love their like the relationships we've built and stuff. But I think I'm built that way too, right? So in fact, if anything, when we get together, we compete. So let's play table tennis, and like we're sweating like crazy. And they love competing. I mean, they don't usually beat me, so they lose. But no, but no. I think it's great because you always are learning from all of them. But remember, so it's different. I'm talking guys like George St. Pierre. He's like 40 now, so he has more years under his belt than somebody. A lot of the basketball players are 21, 22. They're actually kids, right? Who are making a ton of money and have a lot of fame and all that stuff. So, but and they're all different. They're all coming from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different mentalities. Some of my dear friends, OG Ananobi and Precious, I was just, we text quite often with both and stuff. Most of the players, we become very like close, right? Because they're nice people. But, initially when you're dealing with people like that, just like when I first entered the luxury world, I was kind of, in awe of that space, right? But once you're there, it's like you don't think anything of it. You're just like,
Say for a common realtor who just started their journey maybe 2, 3, 4 years before, and they want to get into this luxury market. How can they penetrate into this saturated market where they only want to deal with somebody like you, they trust, and who have years and years of experience? Can somebody still penetrate that market?
yeah, you can. There's nothing that says no, but I think you should probably build a solid footing first with your more traditional houses, right? So that you have, because if you have one shot, so if you go there and you want to do luxury, but you're not equipped and you can't talk the talk or walk the walk, then you'll lose that opportunity, right? So it's better to wean your way into that first. So I didn't go into that space for 10 years, right? Because I wanted to first perfect my craft and understand everything about real estate and feel I was ready to take the next step, right? Not just I'm going to do it because it's fashionable to be. Because if somebody's new to the business, they knock on a house that's worth 10, 15 million, you won't get it. Chances are very difficult for you, right? I'm not saying you won't, but they'll say, why would I go with you? This is my biggest asset. I should go to the proven people. So build yourself first. That's what I think.
So what I understand from you is that initially for 4, 5, 10 years, build your market image, make yourself a brand, and then you can knock those doors where you.
You have a better chance of success. Yeah, at that time, because now you've established yourself, and then your name, your brand will carry a little bit more weight. So if I'm going to a house that's 10, 20, 30 million, and I want to use the word, but I will, like, I'm not established, my name isn't known in the market, they're like, no, I need to go with, an established player because this is important for my house. Right? If they had a $500,000 condo, it wouldn't matter as much to them. Right?
So I want to know, like, say 35 years ago when you started your real estate, how much door knocking you were doing that point of time?
And how many hours were you working?
Because sometimes people think that it's very easy, success came overnight, but nobody knows the bad side of it. How much you worked hard, what it took for you what it took for you to become the Sam McDaddy from Sam McDaddy.
So, firstly, the hours probably 16 to 18 a day, right? So
16 to 18 hours a day.
16 to 18 hours a day. Wow.
7 days a week. Yeah. That's all I did. That's all I did, right? I was committed to being the best and achieving my goals. So it wasn't like I was, dibbling, dabbling, and all that. So, but interestingly, I did knock sometimes, right? But and what I always tell realtors when I speak to groups is, even with real estate, you can do farming, you can do knocking, you could do buyers listings, but what you need to do even with that space is find your comfort level, where you're happy and what's going to make you passionate, right? So I knocked, I didn't like it, right? So I said, okay, so what I need to do is build my brand. I need them to call me. I don't want to knock on doors, right? So because and by the way, interestingly though, when I was knocking, I was getting results because people eventually, like, they're pretty impressed that you're knocking the whole bit. And so, but I don't feel like I want 100 no's, 1 yes. It's the numbers game. That's not really the one I like, right? So let me really spend money. Whatever money I was making, I was going to reinvest in building my brand. So eventually, McDaddy and real estate were the same, right? And that was my goal. So, but there's other people I brainstorm with sometimes, and they love to knock and they succeed at it, but they're passionate about it, so they continue to do it, right? So there's no right or wrong, right? For me, but I just saw if I have to cold call every day, that's all I'm going to do. without like, then I won't really, I know that's not what I like to do, right? So, and because if you don't like it, it's not sustainable. So I tell my teamers, do something sustainable.
So now here we sit with the biggest name of the Canadian real estate market, Sam McDaddy. I want to listen your story, your success story. How did you create your own brand, and what made you create your own brand when you could have worked for somebody else? What was the journey? And I know you're doing amazing in your life, but what are the future plans for the Sam McDaddy?
Initially, I was with a smaller company, Home Life. I first started 35 plus years ago. Then we went to Sutton Group, and I'm a very loyal person. So, and with Sutton Group, it was interesting. I was with them for about 8 or 10 years, and I became maybe one of the top in Canada, whatever that looked like. But they almost started. It was interesting. They started resenting me a little bit, the owners, right? And I'm like, but I'm helping your business. I'm good for you guys. I'm a good recruitment. You can say Sam's here. And so eventually, I think they took me for granted a little bit, right? And that's a mistake in life, even in relationships, everything, right? You should always be grateful for what you have and don't take things for granted. But be appreciative versus. And so at the end, I said, guys, it's time for me to go to my next chapter, right? So then I went to Remax. And I was with Remax for 14 years. We became number one in the world out of 100,000. We hit some pretty high levels, and always they used us as a recruitment tool. And I was happy for them because I want people want them to succeed. And I remember once one of the managers there, he said to me, Sam, we started entering the luxury space. He said, Sam, listen, I've got this house. It's more high end. Back then, the price was a little bit lower, but he goes, I'd like you to take on the listing. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And he goes, well, you charge me. I said, don't worry, I'll be fair with you. Don't worry. We'll work it out after. I'll be fair, right? So we end up selling it. It's a week before closing. And I said, we never really talked about that. Maybe we should have that discussion. So we got together, and he goes, I thought you were going to do it for free. I said, I didn't really say free, but, give me something. And, and then he offered me like $1,000. And I said, honestly, that's kind of disrespectful. Right? So I said, that's like, honestly, if you told me that from the beginning, I'd have politely declined because I'm pretty busy. And, I was going to be fair with you. But, if you said free, that probably wasn't going to resonate with me. Right. So then I called my broker who owned I said, listen, before I could say it, he starts kind of being disrespectful. Oh, you're out of line. I said, you didn't hear my story. You don't even know what happened. So he didn't back me, right? So that was important because I have to have somebody who believes in me and at least listens to me. We can have a difference of opinion, right? So then I decided okay, I'm going to do my own thing. That was it. So I probably would have stayed with Remax because I'm very loyal. If you treat me right, I'm not leaving, right? But if you don't treat me the way I think I should be or deserve to be treated, then I'm going to make changes, right? So then, I meet with him in January and I said to him, listen, I think I'm going to go my own direction now, but I appreciate everything, but I don't want you being hurt. So whatever storyline you want me to share, with all the hundreds of agents in the office, I'll tell them because I was number one for,
years and years.
Yeah, like every month. So we had some pretty good stats there, right? So goes, did it have to do with that day? I said, well, it didn't help for sure, of course, right? Goes, well, I'll give you that. It has nothing to do with the money. It's your actions. Now, you can write me a check, say, for $500,000. It wouldn't matter to me because you didn't back me when I need you to back me, right? And so anyway, then that's how McDaddy Real Estate started. So it happened not because it was always in my mind to have McDaddy Real Estate, but at first I was going to take a Remax office, and then I remember talking to Remax, so you have to sign a 5-year deal. I said, well, I want to grow. I have these visions of growing now. I want to have more offices in one. Well, there's restrictions, territories, grids. And I said, what if I'm unhappy? I'm sure we'll be happy together. What if this marriage isn't working? Oh, you're stuck with us for 5 years. I'm like, it doesn't sound so good to me, right? So I said, okay. So then I had this meeting with my team, and I said, what do you think of McDaddy Real Estate? They said, I think we're ready for it. I think our brand can carry, right? So then we decided and I said, this has to be unanimous. It can't be just majority rules. Everybody has to be on side. So a couple weren't sure. And then they're very close to me, and we had to say, okay, let's do it. We think we can do it, right? So we spent all these months getting ready for this turnover. And I remember May 1st, it's been 12, 13 years. We have our own office, we own it. We've got our deal secretary because we had to add new pieces because now it's your own brokerage. So it's, a few changes had to take place and we had to get up to speed. First day opens, we're excited, we're ready, we're going to rock, right? And then 9 to 12, we don't get one phone call. So I'm like, oh boy, this is maybe a big mistake now. I don't know what's going on. This is not so good. Then I'm actually sweating a little bit. I'm like, maybe I gotta go back. And so then we get a call from the phone company at 12 saying, we're really sorry, your phone lines were down, but now you're up and running. So then from there, the first year, my business went up with McDaddy Real Estate, probably, we left Remax top few in the world, and my business volume went 3 or 4-fold the first year. My revenue 3 or 4-fold. So like we killed it, right? So and it was crazy because Remax made me, and I love Remax, and there's no hard. They were great for me during that period, but they made us believe that we needed their brand. It was a fallacy, right? We built our brand. Our brand was big, right? So, but sometimes you don't know. The unknown is on, like, because you get uncovered. You're not sure what's going to look like, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I think, like, listening from this, I think it's not company matters. It's about when you trust yourself.
Yeah.
You made 3 times, 4 times what you were doing before, more than that.
Year one, right? We killed
Year
it, right?
one.
So right away, right? And then it gave us the autonomy to be able to grow. So now I have 7 offices, right? And so I have 2 in Mississauga, 1 in Oakville, Milton, Hamilton, Burlington, and Yonge and Lawrence, and we own all our real estate. So that's good because also it's appreciation. It's all about. But with Remax, we wouldn't have been afforded that opportunity because you have to be within there's other territories and grids.
If you don't get out, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's unknown, right? That's what I'm saying. You could always live without doing it, then you'd never known. And if I failed, it's okay. I tried. I'm okay with that.
Like listening about this right now from your mouth, I'm feeling this way. Like it takes a lot of guts for somebody to leave something where you're already making a lot of money, and you're basically gambling your life now on yourself. But though you have a lot of experience, but you're starting something.
There's always some apprehension. Like initially, you're not sure. You don't know, right? Like this. Now we look back and we're grateful we did it. But initially, you don't. Especially those first 3 hours, right? We had no calls, right? But no. But listen, I think that's why people have to have the courage. The journey is short. Our life isn't infinite, and you need to take chances that are smart decisions that are going to help you grow and become a better person, right? And if it fails, it fails. It's okay. Listen, everybody who's successful has failures, and it's not always one-way traffic. But you had the courage to get up and go again, right? And I think that's a difference.
Where was this leap of faith coming from when you started your own things?
Well, I had a lot of, like, one dear friend of mine who was a mentor, and we're like very close. I ran it by him, so I said, because I know he has my back and he'd do anything for me and vice versa, right? So we're very close. He said, Sam, I think you're ready to pull, you can do this now. Like, I think it's time, right? And interestingly, then afterwards, Remax and everybody, they all wanted us, even now I said, but guys, like, we have such a good, like, why would we like turn, like, but this is perfect for us, what we're doing. And we have continual plans to grow, and, and we wrote books, and, because you also want to be an educator in real estate. So it's not just, real estate selling, it's real estate mentoring and everything that comes with real estate, right? So, and I think that's very important for you as well, too, to make a dent in the industry.
I think that's what most of the real estate companies are not doing. They're just focusing on sales and numbers. They're not really bringing value to their clients and educated them. And that's where you come in and you give them better education, which separates you from the crowd.
And listen, 20 years ago, we brought in staging. Nobody did staging. It wasn't us staging. We brought in-house stagers. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on furniture and accessories. People were like, they thought it was abstract, right? Now, of course, everybody follows the leader, but by then we're 5 steps ahead anyway, right? Because we've got the next thing. So, but I think you have to always be creative, innovative. And my mind's always, the problem is my mind's always turning. Like, 'cause I'm always, I've got that mind where it's what can we do different, better? Everything in life, not just even sports, even working out. How can I do better? What can I learn from this? And I'm a student of life. That's what I think, right?
So when you started your own brokerage, right? What's the most hardest time you have faced in that? Like, how did you dealt with it?
Yeah, it was a transition because we didn't have to do. Basically, I was selling with Remax. I had my team, but I didn't have to worry about back end administration, front ends. So it's really staffing was a big piece, right? To get right people, because that takes time to get the right people. And it's the ground up, because the first call you make, if that person's not nice or not friendly, then that's already a bad impression. So it's building, the culture from top to bottom, right? And making it feel like a family, right? And I think we've done that. Like, most people are, they've been, and I think for me, the testament is my team members, which become really like a family to me. Many of them are 20 years, 15 years, 25 years. One after 27 years, he doesn't have my health. He says, I have to retire now, which is fine. He's like 65, but that's where I also would say it shows when you take care of yourself versus you don't, right? Because I think I can do this for another 30 years, right? That's what I feel. So that's a testament to doing all the right things from a physicality perspective, a diet perspective. And we'll talk about lifestyle in a sec, because that's a big part of my journey as well, too.
So how many realtors did you start with your initial journey?
How many
realtors did you start your initial journey?
Just single.
Just single.
Just you only?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And the first year, how many?
No. I was doing my own stuff. I was doing 150 deals on my own. Like,
it was a one-man show.
Yeah.
One-man show, 150.
That's 16, 18 hours. Right?
150 deals.
Yeah.
150 deals, just one guy.
Of course. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe I think my 1 year.
So you're almost doing one deal in 2 days.
Yeah, 200 deals in 1 year, like myself.
Wow.
200 deals. I was just
200 deals in 1 year.
Yeah, myself. Yeah.
So
Wow.
now from when you
Now
started
how-
alone to you have almost 60 realtors in your
Yeah.
team. And when I was going through, I read a lot about you. So in his team, every realtor is handpicked. So you don't you get a lot of applications for realtors,
ton.
but you choose only handpicked realtors.
Yeah.
What separates your realtors from others in the market?
Like if someone wants to join your team right now, like listening this podcast, like what they should have.
Well, the thing is, that's a great question. So, we don't really look to hire necessarily because it's not like, let's say a Remax. Their model is different. The more agents, the better. We get a piece of the pie and they pay us office. No, ours, whoever's on Sam McDaddy Real Estate Inc., in the part of the brokerage is part of the team, right? And we don't want to dilute it. I can have 1,000 if I want to, but then it's completely different vision. And then we get watered down with wrong people, bad people. And I also want to still train the team and be there for them. And if you get too big, you can't do that too. So this model works well for me, right? So, I mean, I do think that, now I say I don't hire, but if I see somebody that's kind of like got all these perfect qualities and I think they're going to work really hard, like we just hired this one girl. I mean, and like I said, I usually don't hire, but I knew her father because, we did some real estate and I can tell she's a go-getter and she's motivated because similar story, her dad lost a lot of money. So she wants to work really hard. So I see she's got the characteristics of and a smart girl that'll succeed. So I brought her on because I'm if I was a betting man, we did a podcast next year. I see she had a great year. She made a lot of money and she's a really good contributor to the team. And she's got the right mindset and all the attributes we look for, right? But failing which, most of the times we respond cordially saying, hey, we're running at full capacity. We appreciate the request, but check in again next year, right? Kind of thing.
Yes. What are the goals for Sam McDaddy Brokerage and personally Sam McDaddy for next 5 years?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got 7 offices now, and one of the thoughts we've had, and we're talking to different people, is do we start maybe also mentoring realtors on a bigger level? So there's a lot of different moving parts, but sometimes when you're doing well and you're enjoying it, you don't have to reinvent the wheel too, right? Like sometimes people and I think we've been very blessed and we've done well financially, and then we've really focused on our health as well too. And even with our team, I have a lot of times people who come talk about health, not just real estate, because I want them to become better people too. Not the real estate's one piece of the puzzle, but I want them to be well-rounded and all. So I think if somebody walks in this room and they say, hey, I'm worth $5 billion, they have a lot of money, but they're 500 pounds. I'm like, well, you're not successful. You have successful in one piece of the pie, but not everything else. Because tomorrow you can have you can have a heart attack. You can't enjoy. So to me, what success is being well-rounded in everything, right? You're a philanthropist. You take care of your health. You take care of your family. You do well in business. You do everything well. Everything in life has a purpose, and you do it well. That's what I think, right? So
I have a question. So talking about the goals, coming up, like most people at your age, they retire at around this time, right? And you don't even look your age. That's a different topic. Like he looks like 20 years younger.
Right.
But have you ever thought about retiring?
No, that's boring. No, I'd never retire. No, but here's what I say, because, perfect example, and I tell this to people. I said, look, during COVID, we had downtime, right? Yeah. How'd that feel? People got bored. What am I going to do? So retirement's when you don't like what you do. That's when I think retirement kicks in, right? When you like what you do, why would you retire? Like, for me, it's my perfect identity. Like, I love what I do. I love being around my team. I love being with people. Now, can you slow down the pace? Of course. Yeah, sure. At one point, so maybe I'll slow it down a little bit, right? But right now, I feel like I'm still in my 20s, right? So I have the energy to do what I have to do, and I like it, right? So
how many hours do you still work?
more than anybody on my team. So I tell my team, listen, I'm leading by example, because you can't lead, and I don't want to lead in theory. I want to lead by being in the trenches, by actually doing it every day and being really present. Versus here's a book theory. When you talk book smarts, it means nothing to me. I tell people, when you get your license, throw the books away. Let's teach you the real world now, because now we're going to teach you how to really apply yourself in this industry, right? So I'm always working, but it's like I said, it's a labor of love. It's something I enjoy doing, so it doesn't feel like work. And as soon as you find that, then it's perfect, right? And not that many people see the problem. That the sad part of life, if you go through this journey and you're unfulfilled because you do something out of necessity, because you have a family, you have kids, and you have to, but you don't enjoy it. Well, that's a terrible life to live. Like for me, I feel very blessed, right? Now, I created my own path, my own destiny, because of all the things I did, but I'm still very blessed to be, able to do the thing. Listen, if you asked me 20 years ago, hey, you'd be having George St. Pierre at your house. He's going to be one of your good friends. You're going to hang out with ABC. All the Raptors come over. You play this, and you do this and you travel. I wouldn't have thought that was possible, and that wasn't even on my radar, right? But everything becomes reality, right? And it just becomes part of the journey, right? So, and you embrace it, and you realize whoever, and I've dealt with a lot of really successful people, like very successful, but they're all just people anyway. They're all just like us. There's no difference, right? So, and they're usually very nice, and so when you go into the luxury space, arguably it's easier to be in that space because they understand everything, right? So sometimes we're working with people who are first-time buyers, and one of the big things, exactly what you said, we want to mentor. So I don't get this. If when I'm working with a buyer, let's say in my buyer years, I still work with buyers, but it's a little different. But let's say my team does, I tell them, don't just take them in the car and show them houses. Get them in for an hour, educate them, empower them, talk about everything about real estate. How you can save money, what's going to cost to carry, what you qualify for. Really empower them so they make a good decision. And if they're not ready, say, listen, here's the plan. Next 3 to 6 months to a year, here's what you're going to do. This is my recommendation. A year from now, we'll be ready in a good place to buy. Now that you're empowered with the information, now that separates you from everybody else, because everybody else is, let's just sell you a house. No, we want to educate you. That's why we wrote books on real estate. I mean, I've written our latest edition came out recently, which talks about the whole buying and selling process. Fundamentally the same, except it's revamped with all the new legislative changes, right? So everything's changed now, right? So we want to be educators as well.
So now we see most of the people, most of the brokerages, what they think that they're just the main person wants to go on a big level, on a mainstream level. But when we see you took your team along with you. So as they say, alone you go fast, together you go far. When we see everybody in your team is growing at the same time. So if we say today you have 60 members in your team, those 60 families are doing pretty much good because of you. And they have brought and you have personally brought a lot of change in the community. I've been following you. You help a lot of community events in the upliftment of the society at the same time. And you are part of Hope for Girls NGO as well. So when you work for community at the same time, how do you feel like that you are this giving away a thing? When you give away to the community, do you feel like nice?
Yeah, of course. But I feel that it'd be selfish if you've done well, just think about yourself. I think, sure, buy yourself some things. It's nice. You should reward yourself for sure. Material possessions, they don't last long in terms of how you feel about them. I mean, a lot of people work so hard to, I want this, I want that car. Listen, I've got some really nice cars. I don't drive them too much. My bigger satisfaction is when you can help too. And of course I love like nice things. Like I'm not going to say I don't. Of course you do. You work hard for those and you deserve to reward yourself, right? But I get emails every day for people wanting some, different levels of help and this and that. So if somebody sends me an email, my mom's got cancer, we're short $5,000, I'll write a check, right? They say I need, $1,000 or $2,000 because I'm going on a baseball trip. I might say I'll give you a few $100s because now baseball, it's not life and death, right? So I'll kind of decide where I want to do, but usually we'll give something to everybody, a little something, right? So we spread it, right? Like we'll say, who can we help? Because we get, but we get probably 10 a day that come in, right? We need this, and then we sometimes we have to decide, what's going to make the most sense. And we got behind Trillium Health Partners because we thought that was, health is wealth. So we pledged $1 million towards the hospitals.
I think that's more important because sometimes with God's grace, you get a lot of success, but at the same time, you have that empathy and gratitude towards the community and towards the nation, which is more important and which is really very rare to see now, which we see in your journey, right? It's good.
Yeah, listen, I can always do better though. We can always be better and all the above, but I think it is important. So for me, like I said, my journey you wanted to make sure my dad was, my family's taken care of. So before my dad passed away 24 years ago, but before he passed away, I'd bought my parents a house, and so his soul was peaceful. So that was very important to me. So that knowing that he knew the family was going to be taken care of, right? So my goal then was accomplished, right, before he passed away, which was important for me too. So yeah,
I think that gives you some internal peace, right?
Yeah, a lot, of course. Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Especially,
yeah.
So Sam, let's say if this was your last podcast ever, what is the one message you would like to give it to the world?
That's a good question. Well, listen, I think that believe in yourself, right? And really believe in yourself, which means go for it and give it your all, right? Because most people pay lip service, right? They don't take the steps required to get to where they want to be. We all want to be here. But are you ready to go from here to here and pay the price? Everybody sees people at the end of the journey, right? When they got there. Like you said correctly, we don't see the journey to get there and the heavy, heavy price you pay to get there, the sacrifices you make. So if you want to get to the top of the food chain, be prepared to go against the grain, be different than everybody else, be different, right? But it's okay to be different. Your uniqueness will get you to the top.
Sam, when you were on this journey, there were times. I think that there would be the times when the other of your friends were chilling, they were doing party, but you were still working on yourself. You were grinding yourself. After so many years, you feel like whatever I did was right, right?
Oh, zero, no, 100,000% no regrets. Like, I'm very, very happy for all the steps I took. And I didn't feel like it was a sacrifice. There's times, I'd get calls in my 20s, let's go out, Sam, these girls want to meet you. This, I said, no, I got to get ready for the showing store. So I put that on the back burner, right? So, which was fine. And of course, there's times you're like, but I knew my goal. I had a mission, I had a goal, and I had a purpose, and I wasn't going to deviate, right? So you got to think 25, 30 years ago, there's no GPS. So if I'm showing houses to you tomorrow, I don't know how to get to all these houses. I got these booked. Now you just plug in the GPS. I would go Saturday night, I'd drive by every single neighborhood, every house, where the schools were. I'd map it, this, that. So that's where you fake it till you make it. I didn't really know those areas, but I faked it because now I drove by the night before. I did everything. And so I said, by the way, this school goes to grades 3. I knew it only the night before, right? So I didn't really know it forever. But I studied because I wanted to be a perfectionist, right? And I think that's important because now they say, oh, this guy's really good. He knows. Now imagine I'm driving, I turn the wrong way, turn left, turn right. They're not going to believe in me. So I said, no, I have to do the dry one. If I wasn't sure, I'd do the dry one a second time. Just make sure I'm turning here, the house is here. Okay, perfect, I got it. So you have to preparation. It's very important too.
So like now what I'm understanding, right? A lot of youth is seeing this podcast. Somebody who is in his late 20s or maybe early 30s, made a lot of money in real estate. So with great powers comes great responsibilities, right? What were the things you were taking care of that time? Because as I talk to you, now I hear that you were not just thinking about yourself or chilling. So what were the responsibilities which were driving you at that point of time? Because now you're making money. You can spend, you have two options. You can spend, party, chill, buy whatever you can do. At the same time, you can make your own empire. So how were you doing it?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, for sure, was knowing that, hey, I've got parents, I want to make sure they're taken care of. That was the number one driver, right? So, and I think that was the biggest fuel for me, right? Because like I say, I grew up until age 15 with a very comfortable background where there was a lot of affluence or perceived affluence. And perception is interesting because, my dad, so we thought, had a pretty successful business operation, but it was cash flow good, but he wasn't really paying attention to, revenue expenses. So, that part we didn't really understand. So all we saw as kids is, hey, we're able to buy whatever we want, not realizing when you peeled the, banana, it wasn't so perfect, right? So to me, yeah, I think for sure. So anything adverse that happens to you in life, you can turn into a positive. So when my dad lost his whole business and we had to go rent from living in Lorne Park and, life became much different for us, you could either go in the ground, so life is, or say, no, let's go. We got to make this happen. And we know, of course, I'm 15 now, so I'm like, I got many years ahead of me, but now I'm planting the seeds of what I need to do, right? So, and we know it's not going to happen by 15, but by 20, 25, hopefully I've got to a place where I can start contributing back, right? And there's no guarantees. All you can do is give it your best shot.
I think that really paid off from coming from bankruptcy to $10 billion business in Canada. Oh my God. That's really a very, very inspiring story.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm just getting goosebumps right now when I talk to you. Because very few people, people say they started from zero or whatever. But now I have a live example sitting in front of me who shows a lot of part for youngsters that yes, you can do it if you have certain aims, certain visions, and certain goals in your life, and you are well disciplined. Yes, we can achieve it. Even for first generation immigrants coming in Canada, they can certainly do that.
You can achieve anything you want. But no, Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to take your time, plant the seeds, and do it the right way, right? And I think that's critical. But live a good, holistic lifestyle. And I don't judge anybody. If somebody wants to get drunk every night, that's up to them. That's their life. If they're happy, God bless them, right? That's not my place to say, right? I know in my life what works for me. And for me, I know living holistically is very important. So, I mean, just to give you a perfect example, my day starts off every morning, I get a massage. 60, 90 minutes. I have a trainer in my house 3-4 times a week. I get stretched 4 times a week. I have a chef that only cooks organic food for me, like we were talking about earlier. So everything I do is with purpose, right? I will not put something in my mouth that's bad for me. If it's bad for me, it doesn't go in my mouth. That's my rule of thumb. If it doesn't, if it's seed oils, if it's alcohol, if it won't enter my mouth, right? That's just my. So now, if something happens to me, God forbid, health-wise, I'll say, I did everything I could to make sure I did the right things, right? So it's not like, oh, I smoked for 30 years and I brought that upon myself. It's maybe just the luck of the draw. So I'm okay. I can live with that. I'm okay with that because I did all the right things myself, right? So
and that gives me a sense where you are responsible for everything what is happening in your life.
Yeah, everything. And I take ownership for everything. So if something goes wrong, and you have to be able to take ownership. If you make a mistake, own it. Say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, this is my fault. I'm going to fix it. Don't hide. Own it. Go head on, own it, right? That's important. Because sometimes it's not a perfect world. You make mistakes, but you got to be a man enough to own that and correct it, right? And do what's right. I remember once I sold a house. It was when the market was red hot. I had this listing. People came to my office, and she inherited this property, and we've dealt with her in the past. I want to sell. It was a nice building lot. So I placed a call right away to one of my guys. He goes, I'll buy. He goes, okay, I'll buy it. So we sold it within 1 hour, right? 1 hour. So the guy's supposed to bring a deposit check. He doesn't bring the check. And I said, I won't mention his name, but I said, we need that check. Oh, don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry, I'll never let you down. So a couple of days, he gives a check, it bounces, right? Like, okay, now I got to tell my seller what I'm going to do. Don't worry, it's going to close. Everything's fine. So 2-3 months, closing's now coming up, right? Still no deposit, not even a deposit, right? So now the market turned. It changed. So I'm like, oh boy, now the market's not. I can't even get the price we got. So this is a problem. So then a week before close, she goes, Sam, do you have the deposit? And I said to her, told the same story. Listen, let me tell you the story. I'm never lie. Always be honest. I said this was so. No, we don't. Here's what happened. This and that. Sam, what's going to happen? I said, worst case, I'll buy it. What are you going to do? You have to step up, right? So we end up finding somebody who bought it. I gave them a mortgage for it, and they bought it, right? But now I made a decision not to say anything. It was a mistake on my part. I won't replicate that, but I had to stand up for it. If it was going to go wrong, I had to be big enough to take care of it, right? Not that I wanted to, but it was the right thing to do, right? So
Be responsible for your
yeah,
actions.
you have to be. I could have, no, it's too bad, so sad. What are you going to do? No. I said, listen, you're right, and I made a mistake because now she respected the same price. I said it'll have to be the same price. Whatever we traded at, that's what we're going to pay for, right? So that's what you have to do. And then they respect you, right?
Like I think in real estate industry, we're different with different people. Like at a time you're dealing with somebody who's working with in an IT company, then you're dealing with somebody who owns a business, then you're dealing with somebody who's not doing a lot of good in their life. So it must be challenging for you to talk to different people, different backgrounds. Does it?
No, I love it actually. I love it. I think it's great, yeah. Because I think if somebody's doing really well, I love it. If somebody's doing really, really well, I can learn from them. I love that too. If somebody's not doing well, maybe we can help them. If somebody's so I think all facets of life are interesting and unique, and I still enjoy all of the above.
I just wanted to ask, like when I'm trying to learn real estate on a site, right? So every time somebody says that there were a lot of people when we were learning about real estate that you cannot make money in real estate if you don't have big money, or maybe you need a good mentor to help you, right? So if somebody is looking to grow their life in real estate with no money, they have this vision, they want to do big. They want to be a developer someday, but they have to start from somewhere. How do they start?
We started that way. Same thing. So listen, I think it's interesting because sometimes the perception is, I need a lot of money. No, you don't. You just need hard work, right? So really, real estate is a low-cost entry business. You need to get your real estate license. You don't have to pay, crazy money to run the business and overhead. I mean, really, you're getting a license that costs a few $1,000s to get, and maybe a few $1,000s to get a license. So under $5,000, you're ready to go, right? Now, if you don't have money, so what I suggest is when you make money, keep 10%, put it back into your business, building brand and getting to, because one of the things we did want to, like I said earlier, is we wanted to build a brand that was identifiable with real estate, right? But failing which, you can knock on doors, you can do this, you can do so many things to create business opportunities that cost no money until you get revenue. Once you have revenue, then you can invest back in yourself as well too, right?
So does networking plays a very important role in real estate?
Does
networking plays an important role?
Yeah, I mean, listen, sure, but I'm a guy more like if I want to be nice to everybody. It does. So oftentimes it's interesting. I'll be at a grocery store. People may recognize me. I'll say hi, but no, just because I think it's nicer to be nice than not be nice, right? Then they'll call me a year later. Oh, by the way, I met you there. You're very nice to me. I'd like to do some real estate with you, right? I didn't expect that. I'm not even thinking that, but I think just run your life righteously, and good things will happen, right? And everything will fall into place. But you got to remember, if you want to be a successful realtor and you want to get to the top of the food chain, it's not overnight, and it's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of sacrifices. If you're not prepared to do that, you're just going to be mediocre. You're going to be average. But we're never built to be average. We have to be like Yogi Bear, above average. So above average bear is what I say.
So what is your advice for that? For most of the realtors, what would be your advice to be the 1% of the producers in Canada?
you have to find within the industry the passion. So whether it's door knocking, whether it's farming, whether it's listings, whether it's buyers. So find something that resonates that's going to be sustainable for you, number one. Number two, put your time on task. Number three, be a student of real estate. For me, my real estate mentors are guys like David Liniger, who founded Remax, because he's got 100,000 realtors. When I meet with him and talk to him, and it's been a few years, his health is compromised now, but he's a real estate genius. So I'll be all ears. When I was in the panel with Gary Keller of Keller Williams, he's got 200,000 realtors. I'll listen to him all day long because he's a real estate genius. I don't want to learn from somebody who sold 2 houses last year. I'm happy to talk to them, but I don't think I'm going to learn that much because they haven't had enough time on task. So learn from people who've done it, who've actually perfected their craft and see what they really did. But I remember telling when I was speaking to the 8,000 realtors, and I said, listen, I challenge you guys, because most people at the end of today, they'll take all the notes, they'll come back raw, all excited, but you'll go back to your day to day, right? I hope and I challenge that one of you guys is not that person, and then it was worth it for me to be here today. So that way you all got better because of this, right? Because most people go back to their day-to-day patterns, right? So, and that's reality. So you have to be able to be different. And there's only a few that get there, only a few. Not because they don't have the ability, they don't have what it takes to get there.
I think that's why
the heart.
I think that's why we think that most of the realtors in the market who are doing real estate properly or full time is just 1%, and rest 99% are just the part timers.
Well, to your point, 80,000 realtors, I don't know, maybe 70,000 don't even sell a house a year, right? So there's such a pie curve, right? You've got the top, 1/10 of 1% that really do a lot of volume, top 30 or 40 realtors, and the rest starts really tailing, right? So, and it's a shame because you got to think I remember one of my old brokers, the Home Life first broker, he took me one day, drove me, he goes, Sam, look at all these cars. All these people have to buy houses. You just need a piece of those, right? And you'll do well, right? I said, you're right. You're right. So that's why I said there's enough room on top for everybody. There's no shortage of getting to the top and having competition. And competition is healthy too.
I think that most of these part-timers don't even have the right education to educate their customers.
They're doing their clients a disservice, honestly, because they're not really and so here's the fundamental challenge is, let's say your brother's a realtor, he does it part-time, right? He does something else. But now, you're going to go buy or sell. Well, you're compelled to use him because he's your brother, otherwise family dinners aren't so pleasant, right? But he doesn't have the expertise. Not that he doesn't want to, he just doesn't know, right? Because he's not doing it day in, day out. He's not in the trenches. So now you make bad decisions, this and that. Unintentional, not intentional, but that hurts you, right? So it's almost problematic because people end up making bad decisions that affect their livelihood because they have to go with family or relatives.
That's what I was thinking. Most of the time when people try to think that they should go with somebody who's in family and they barely know anything about real estate, just because you are saving a couple of bucks there in the commission part, you are losing thousands of dollars for the wrong decision, right? So I think that's what been in the market till now. We see a lot of people just want to work with somebody, their family, friends, which brings them a lot of loss. They could save money like maybe 2,000, 10,000 to their commission, but they don't see a long-term vision and a long-term loss, right?
For sure. Yeah. And sometimes, honestly, I can't even blame. It's not even maybe sometimes financial. It is sometimes maybe because they're not going to get charged. It's that. But more importantly, I think that person feels like it's my brother. I better use my brother, right? And they know in their back of their mind, that maybe it's not the best decision, but I have to use my brother, right? And I understand that, by the way. It makes sense. Like if my brother's in real estate and he's part time, and I was needing to, I'd probably be compelled to use him, though I'd have some reservation, but I'd use him.
Recently saw somebody was listing their house and there was a tag down there that we will only charge 999 as a commission for selling the house.
Yeah.
But then they do a contract with them that anytime you buy a house, you have to buy through us.
There's usually some hooks attached to that, right? Yeah. So, and by the way, you can't really list a house for $999 and do all the right things. If I'm staging, pre-inspecting, marketing, it doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. So I mean, it's a hook, right? That's not a sustainable business model, and they're not going to give you any attention at $999, right? Because it's just like trying to do a lot of numbers and sure. But listen, if somebody wants to charge $999, that's up to them. It's okay, right? So I mean, that's not us. I mean, we're always fair. I always feel like you have to be competitively priced, and you don't want to gouge. You want to be fair, but it's still got to be a win-win for all parties, is what I think, right? So
yeah. Okay, Sam, it was really great having you here. We learned so much about Canadian real estate and your journey, especially. We know about the Sam McDaddy, but the hard work and the hustle behind of 35 years is what made you who you are. And yeah, very grateful to have you.
And,
Thank you so much for having
Yeah,
me.
it's my pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. Some
Thank
great
you.
questions.
It
I
was,
appreciate today as well.
Thank you so much, Sam, for coming here. To be honest, this was one of the podcasts where I literally wanted to have conversation with you. The journey you had from 0 to billion, it's crazy. And you set up a benchmark for people like us who want to do something in their life. Thank you so much for coming. And I really hope that this podcast will bring a lot of education to a lot of people who not want to do big in their life. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much.